It's March 25th, 2022. I'm Sonatina, and this is Linguistics You Can Use. Welcome to Crafting Sound Meaning, where we discuss language and how it creates our reality. Uh, Welcome back. If you have been enjoying our second season of Linguistics You Can Use, um, welcome for the first time. If you're, saying hi and checking us out. Today, I was thinking we could look at a word that I think is much like most of the words that I feel we examine every week, quite relevant to the time that we are in at the moment. And honestly, you could say that this is relevant to any time period in the world because what is existence except our perspective on reality, right? So I'm gonna be right back with you. I just realized that I forgot to, anyway, I will be right back. Welcome back. Uh, I have now my beverage and I feel like we shall begin. uh, thanks for thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate all of you folks out there who enjoy exploring the world of language and linguistics and how it affects the way that, we perceive our world and all that. So, let's talk perspective. So, today as I was preparing for our live stream on language, I was I was contemplating what it was about this word that I felt most it was most relevant in terms of this moment in time. So, what I did a little bit of a stream of conscious journaling, which is a regular thing that I highly recommend to do. And what came out of this in terms of why I felt perspective was a relevant term to discuss now this week is due to um, the experiences that I have personally encountered in my life and how those experiences keep coming back to me with somebody else's highly, highly different interpretation of it. And when I take a moment and put myself in their shoes, when I consider their perspective, their life, their experience, why they may have come to such a different conclusion about a topic, I think, well, that's neat. Isn't that interesting? Well, this is an opportunity to reconcile these two different perspectives. And let's talk about how our perspectives do matter, how they are valid, and why the other person's might not be right, right? So, did a little bit of a language thing there. So, there's been a lot of talk, I feel, in our world recently about, validity of feelings and emotions and experiences. And that is 100% true, right? As I was just saying, the perspective that we bring to a situation is incredibly relevant to how we interpret it and the conclusions that we make. That the fact that they are valid, the fact that they come from a place, and this actually comes to last week's episode, if you want to watch where we talked about spontaneous, right? We come to a decision, or our perspective on a situation comes from a complex, you know, connectivity thing in our brains, right? And it's very personal to us. And that means that, yes, it is valid. It is real in the sense that our brains created that based on our previous experiences. Now, at the same time, it doesn't mean that it is the correct interpretation or the only correct interpretation. And that's another thing I feel often in our culture these days is there's this expectation that there's one right answer or something, and it confuses me. It does. It confuses me a bit because we don't only have one answer for complex problems, right? That's kind of the whole point. So actually, this gets me to one of the other points that I was making in my little what is it? What did I say? Free write? Well, that's what I call it for myself, but it's like the flow of consciousness writing. So one video, one TED Talk keeps coming back to me, and I should look it up so that I actually do know what I am talking about. But it is, I actually just showed it recently to a friend, so I do know that it is existing and it is on the YouTube. But basically, what the video that I'm looking up is about how your feelings, your emotion, your physical reactions and feelings. So, yes. So, Lisa Feldman Barrett. Look her up. But there is a TED Talk called You Aren't at the Mercy of Your Emotions. And that talk shows how the way that one person may express emotion can be vastly different from the way that somebody else would expect somebody to express that emotion. I mean, if you have any experience or time in the autistic community, I think you might know where I'm going with this. So this person, Lisa Feldman. Lisa Feldman. What is her name again? Lisa Feldman Barrett. Really want to look at her up. She makes the comparison, or she uses an example from the different cultures that exist amongst humans. So she starts with a story of a bombing that happened at a marathon in Boston, the Boston Marathon, and she talks about how the jury assumed or judged that the person they were deciding his fate on the fact that he wasn't showing emotions meant that he wasn't remorseful. Whereas, as she was explaining, in the culture that he grew up in and came from, when you are caught or whatever, right, when you are facing the consequences, you face it. You do not show your emotions, and you face the consequences of your actions and all that. And so the fact that he felt remorse didn't show, maybe, but that didn't mean he didn't feel it. So in that way, right, we have experiences in the autistic community where we feel different about a situation. And it's very hard to get other people to understand that that is a valid perspective, because they don't want to acknowledge that their perspective is wrong. And that's where, I start to kind of try to unpack and be like, okay, well, let's see about this then. Okay, so I have a particular location in my city that I cannot really comfortably go and hang out at because the volume is just too much, right? It's just it sets off my nice noise sensitivity. So I just, avoid it. And trying to explain to somebody, and this has happened, though in this particular situation, it's, it wasn't as aggressive. It was just a confusion, but I was explaining, I cannot go there because it is uncomfortable, it's painful. And they looked utterly confused. Like, I do not understand how that place could be uncomfortable. Can't you just wear some headphones or something? Like, it's one of those things where, for some reason, the idea that they would have to move, the choice of them to, the choice they made to host the event at a location where I could not attend put them in the wrong somehow. And therefore, they were trying to, they were trying to fix it. They were trying to make, not necessarily invalidate my perspective, but just try to push theirs as the more correct one. And perhaps this isn't your interpretation of this circumstance. Maybe you think everybody's had their best intentions and we shouldn't look too much into it. That is another perspective. And I find it valid, though I do not choose to follow it. So, I think this is a good opportunity to look at what the dictionary says about the word perspective. So, go into my handy dandy book I've had since childhood, JKLMNOP. So, we are looking for P-E-R P-E-R-S. We're getting closer. Person. Oh, perspective. We found it. Now, you may think, shouldn't you look these up before the strategy? But hey, who doesn't love a little bit of a flipping through the dictionary? Okay. Perspective. So there are actually two entries for perspective in the dictionary. We have one as a noun and one as an adjective. So we're going to start with the noun. The perspective, noun, the art of representing solid objects on a flat surface so that they seem to be in relation to one another in space, just as the eye would see them. Interesting. A picture made using this technique. The appearance of objects with reference to distance, relative positions, etc. Relative importance. To see problems in their true perspective. Evaluation of events according to a particular way of looking at them. Historical perspective. A view or prospect. Science of optics. Prospect. Interesting. Now we go to the adjective. Perspective, adjective. Of, pertaining to, or depicted according to perspective. There's a bunch of, technical stuff, which ends in to look through view, which is, in a way, the definition that I was using earlier of, pertaining to, or depicted according to perspective, right? So in this way, perspective is an adjective. We are using our viewpoint to describe the world. That is our perspective. At the same time, right, it is also a noun. Simply a person, place, or thing, right? Nouns. And it comes into the way that we create the illusion of perspective and how that relates to the visual. So, what's the point of analyzing this word in this way? The art of representing solid objects on a flat surface so that they seem to be in relation to one another in space, just as the eye would see them. We can take that definition from the art world, right? You're drawn, you're just creating this fabulous optical illusion. And then we bring it down to the world that we live in. Evaluation of events according to a particular way of looking at them. So the decisions that we make on the information we agree to, disagree with, all of these things influence our perspective. It is innate in us to protect ourselves as good and right. And so everything about our world, ourselves, is going to create a perspective that tries to create meaning from what is in front of it. And that's hard sometimes when the world is, really a chaotic place that doesn't have necessarily much inherent meaning, right? We bring it, we create the meaning that we want to bring to this world, right? So, and that's, my perspective on the situation. Oh, well, that was a fun little discussion. Maybe a little bit quicker, or maybe not as, fancy sometimes as I get, every week's a little bit different. You never know. I'm going to be a talking head. Am I going to do some reviewing? Maybe I'll get back to gaming, analyze some words while we chat about how the relationship in a cafe in alternate universe Seattle. So, thank you so much for joining me. I believe that is all the linguistics that you can use for this week. I hope that this, discussion on perspective helped you attain some well-earned ease of mind as you get out there, and have fun crafting sound meaning. Well, thanks again for joining. And I welcome you to send me your suggestions. You can leave a comment down below if you have any comments on this week's episode, or you can send me an email. You can also tweet at me at soundmeaning on Twitter. And yeah, check out my website, craftingsoundmeaning.com, and you can, maybe meet with me and get deeper into what, crafting meaning for your life and all that stuff. So I will see you next week. Bye.